Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Ale.
And I'm Carla, and this is Booked and Buzzin'.
From bestseller to hidden gems, we're going to be sharing our thoughts, reviews, and all the latest buzz in the book world.
Yep. Today we're going to be doing a recap of Quicksilver. So we reread it so that you don't have to.
Yep, book 2 is coming out in a couple weeks now. So we're going to be doing a in-depth recap so that you can just watch this and be ready to read book 2.
Yep.
I am personally not as excited, but we did it. And I think that I am open-minded to Brimstone. And I'm most excited about reading it with you.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks because when we were doing this reread and also this outline, we were like, damn, this book has a lot of potential. So I'm hoping that maybe in the next one, I didn't hate it.
No,
for me
you
it was
didn't.
a 3. I don't
Drinking
remember
our vodka was.
Yes. I don't remember what exactly I gave it, a 3.5 or something like that. But I think I'm excited for the next one. I want to see, does it get better? I struggle with Kingfisher always, so I don't know what that's going to be like. I can't.
I never
him.
liked him.
Yeah.
But for today's episode, we're going to do strictly the recap, quick.
Yes.
And then on our next episode, we're going to go through the bonus chapters and we're going to go through theories.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Which we haven't read the bonus chapters.
Yep,
So
we're going to
we'll be
read them.
basically
fresh.
live reacting to it. We'll read it beforehand and just kind of give you fresh live reactions of it.
Yep, exactly. So, recap. We start this book and we meet our female main character, Sarah's Fae, and she lives in the city of Silverin, right? And this is a district called the Third Ward where survival is brutal and they have no water. It's very, very, very poor.
Yeah.
Sarah is confronted by a city guardian who demands her identity and threatens to imprison her. She gives a false name and claims to be the Third Ward, which shocks the guardian because it's usually quarantined. When the guardian drops his metal gauntlet, Ceres snatches it in the moment and makes a run for it, escaping by climbing a sandstone wall. At the top of the wall, strange quartz vibrations happen while she holds the gauntlet, which makes you wonder if there's something special about the gauntlet.
So following this, Ceres visits a glassmaker's workshop. It belongs to Elroy, somebody that she's known for a long time. And she essentially wants to hide the gauntlet there. Where she's staying at with her brother is essentially just squatting. So she wants it somewhere safe. Elroy refuses to help her hide the gauntlet because he's afraid of the consequences if the authorities discover it. He used to aid rebel groups, but now he's afraid to anger the Queen's soldiers, so he turns her down. Ceres goes off to find her brother, Hayden.
Yep.
And he's in a bar alley after having lost gambling to Carrion.
Up to no good.
She asks Hayden to hold onto the satchel that has the gauntlet in it. She tells him, don't open it, don't do anything with it, just wait here. And she goes inside to talk to Carrion and confront him. We find out through this interaction that at some point the two of them were intimate, and he's teasing Ceres all throughout their interaction, which she's super pissed off about. Yeah. He also makes it known that he's aware that she has the gauntlet and that she needs to get it out before the guards destroy everything looking for it. Ceres ignores Carrion and kind of gets paranoid, so she goes outside to find her brother, and she finds that her brother's gone.
Yep. At this point, though, Carrion seemed very I know you did it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
He was very suspicious of her. Ceres runs through the town trying to look for him because she's like, okay, my stupid brother that's always up to no good. Why did I give, again, why did she give it to him?
Yeah.
But she gave it to him. And she finds him holding the bag with the gauntlet, visible and surrounded by the guardians. Ceres takes charge, and after a conflict where she manages to steal the guardian's sword and fight them off for a few moments, she is captured and her brother is spared. Ceres' brother makes start to put up a fight at that moment, and the sister is being taken away, but Ceres says hurtful things about how he's always been a burden to him to kind of get him to snap out of it and be like, wait, what is going on? And then, he doesn't go after her.
Yeah. After that, she is thrown into a cell in the castle, and we begin to find out who the queen is. Her name is Madra, and she seems to never age and has an unrealistic beauty to her. The captain guard Heron brings her to a chamber with a sword stuck in the ground, an ominous sign. The immortal queen, Queen Madra, appears and questions where Ceres learned to fight. This seems to be the biggest point of meeting with Madra. She's hinting that Ceres maybe was taught by Fae warriors, or that some Fae were sent out for Madra. This completely confuses Ceres because, as far as she knows, Fae have been gone from their world for thousands of years.
Yeah, it's like ancient, like lore.
Yeah. But at the same time, she doesn't want to reveal, where she did learn, which was rebel groups.
Yep.
So Queen Madra threatens to kill not only Ceres, but the entire ward if Ceres doesn't comply. Madra then starts talking about how Ceres is a rat and so are all her people, and how it's time to finally eradicate all of them.
I do want to point out at this moment, it is interesting that very early on, we already get introduced to the fact that Madra is like supposed to be human.
Yeah.
But like, however have you been alive and like stayed the same for so long?
Yeah. And she
Right.
mentions that she has uncanny strength.
Yep. Madra commands Heron. She's basically, I'm so tired of this bitch, and goes, okay, Heron, kill Ceres and
Yeah.
make her sing with pain. Heron impales Ceres and twists the blade in her stomach, making Ceres scream in pain. Heron then pulls out the dagger, drives it into her chest once, and when he goes to do it again, the blade stops before Ceres. Heron is in shock, and the blade begins to melt into silver pieces that start climbing all over him. Heron freezes in fear and began begging Ceres to stop. Ceres doesn't realize what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? She's just like shocked and dying. There's a sword protruding out of her.
Yeah.
And she's making the way to the sword, and as soon as she grabs it, a pool of silver begins to envelop the floor. A man slowly came rising out of the quicksilver and takes Ceres into it with him. She's dying.
Yeah.
Right? And she has nowhere else to go.
She says multiple times, like,
Yeah.
I'm dead anyways. I might
Yeah.
as well, get my
Try.
last lick.
Yep.
And that's when she's like terrorizing Heron, essentially. Because he
Exactly.
begs her to stop for a while.
Yep.
So after that, Ceres wakes up in a strange place. She suggests it might be like a different realm or location after suffering from her incredible injuries that should have killed her. And she's very well aware that she should be dead. She meets a woman who is a Fae named Everlane and finds that there's a necklace that she doesn't recognize hanging from her neck. Ceres is unsettled. Everything from the grandness to the room, to the ease that water is offered. She cries in the tub because of that, because she's rationed to like 7 ounces of water a day. So for her to be literally
Like
in a pool of
bathing in
water,
water.
is insane to her. She has like a whole breakdown because of that. And the most surprising thing that she realizes is that Fae are not what she's been taught all these years. She's
Yeah.
been taught that they're vicious, that they eat humans, that they're horrible.
Yeah, they're like monsters.
Yes.
Yep. Ceres is then asked to return a necklace that she's wearing, which was put on her by the man that took her through the Quicksilver. Renfis, another new face, right, says that the man has been without it for too long. We're confused. We don't really know what's going on,
Yeah.
but it's early in the book, so you're like, okay, we're going to get more info. Everlyn takes Ceres to meet her father, King Belicon, in front of the whole court. Belicon informs Ceres that she will stay in the kingdom to perform her task. She's like, what am I doing here? Ceres resists this, right? And she says that she needs to go back and retrieve her brother that's in trouble. Belicon tells Ceres that her whole quarter has been wiped out by the queen, who he calls a bitch, right? So at this point, you're kind of like, okay, so there's different realms. They don't coincide, but they know about each other, right? The king informs her that she will awaken the Quicksilver, that she did awaken the Quicksilver somehow, and is opening pathways. Ceres is dismissed, and they bring in a man who is snarling like a beast, right? Belicon taunts him and holds the necklace over him. He riles the crowd up, and everyone begins to taunt on the floor. So he's like, no one's a big fan of him.
Yeah.
Everlyn looks distressed at this whole thing, so it makes it seem like they know each other. Ceres recognizes the man as someone who saved her. That's the guy that like pulled her out of the pool. And his name is Kingfisher. So Renfrew appears and convinces the king to allow Kingfisher to have the necklace and retain his sanity, right?
Yeah. So at this point, Sarah's, okay, I might say Sarah because I call her Sarah.
That's true.
And I wrote it in the notes.
I know, it's
So I'm
hilarious.
trying to say Sarah's, but sometimes it says Sarah, and I just automatically say it.
But you know who we're talking
But
about.
you know who I mean. So Ceres learns about the substance called Quicksilver. It's a magical element / metal, and it is of central importance to the Fae and the realms. Ceres is continuing to recover while mentally struggling with the fact that she's not just fighting for survival anymore. She's also fighting to survive in her new home in a role that she never chose to be in, with people she doesn't know and traditions and ways of being that she doesn't understand.
And they do think that she's weak and useless,
they-
right? So the whole idea is that, okay, maybe the Fae are not monsters, but she's definitely lower in their hierarchy of
They're
importance.
much more capable than she is.
Yeah, but in strength, and they believe that humans are like wasteful.
Yeah,
Like they're useless.
exactly.
So Ceres is taken deeper into the Fae realm to forge and begin hands-on encounters with magical mechanics of the world. So they're basically like, you need to figure out how this Quicksilver thing works. And she's like, who am I?
Am I not a human?
Everlane mentions that she's over 1,000 years old. Kingfisher's even older. So now we know like the Fae have really long lifespans. Kingfisher's past is hinted at. He was banished, that he has a lot of guilt, and he did something really, really bad, right? So he destroyed a city when he wasn't supposed to, or a city of innocence, right, at this point.
Yeah.
Ceres tries to press him, which changes their dynamic. And when they are kind of, they're kind of grouped together. They're like, you guys need to help each other figure out this Quicksilver situation. At this point, we don't really know what the Quicksilver is.
Not at all.
We're just kind of like, okay, there's this like it almost, when I first read this book, it was like portals, like they're portals.
Yeah.
And they've been like stagnant.
It's very unclear, but it seems that it is a way to travel through realms, which is the goal that Belicon has, is to activate theirs so they can travel through realms.
Exactly. During this part of the book, Kingfisher is like insoportable.
Yeah, horrible.
With Ceres, and he's mean and he taunts her.
He constantly calls her stupid and weak and all of these things.
Human and all that stuff.
And also he's like, you need to figure out the Quicksilver. And she's like, I don't even know what that is. Can somebody teach me? And he's like, nope, there haven't been any alchemists in however many years. So
Well,
figure
that's
it out.
actually important because they do tell her, hey, because you were able to awaken this somehow, this means that you have alchemist blood in you.
Yeah.
And she's like, great, what is that? And they're like, no, I don't know. We haven't seen that in thousands of years.
There's no guide. There's nothing to give her any hint of an idea on how she can wield Quicksilver.
And then you think, right, like it's been thousands of years since they have data on alchemists. So you have to assume that these realms have not been able to travel between each other for a long time.
Yeah, and it's also important to mention that it is kind of hinted that alchemists at some point go crazy because of the Quicksilver. And part of what's wrong with Kingfisher is that he has Quicksilver stuck in him. So when he doesn't have his relic
His
on,
necklace that protects him from the...
he goes a little berserk.
Because the Quicksilver is like an entity almost. Like, it's the best way to think about it,
Yeah. While she's playing with the Quicksilver, it starts to talk to her, saying words,
and
phrases.
only she can hear.
Yeah.
At which point, Ceres starts inquiring about Kingfisher, right? She's like, "What is up with him? Why have we teamed up? Why is he basically an asshole to me?" There's a point where Ceres enters the library with Everlane and participates in more alchemy research, and the Quicksilver's history is revealed more fully. A once common magical metal used for portals, weapons, and transmutation.
Yep.
So now we know, like, okay, what's the point of this, right?
Yeah,
like,
why is it so important?
but we don't know why it doesn't work anymore. It was just, she's given her control of Quicksilver and was tested on holding it, bending it to her will, and doing so under Kingfisher's watch.
Which is annoying.
Yeah, but you start realizing that, okay, she has an affinity for it.
Yeah.
That people, like, no one else is. It's almost like the Quicksilver is like wanting to talk to her.
Yeah.
So like,
Wants
it's
to
like,
be heard, and she's the only one that can hear it.
Exactly. At one point, like the tension between them escalates. She punches him, and then the power shift kind of between them is kind of real. Like they're kind of getting to know each other, but like, why does he hate her so much aside from like the fact that she's human?
He has a lot of anger towards her. He's vile with her. Vile.
He's really vile, like calling her
awful things to
scum.
her,
Like,
laughs at her, humiliates her, makes her feel like nothing.
Scum, like,
yeah,
yeah,
makes her feel
literally
like
nothing.
scum. And it's not to say that he's nice to Renfis or Everlane by any shot, but he is substantially much more worse to Ceres than he is to anybody else.
Yep.
So yeah, all of the time they're spending together creates a lot of conflict, a lot of a very strange dynamic between the two of them. And as you go, Lane reveals more of her past and what happened to her mother, how her mother died and only left behind Kingfisher, who is not the son of Belicon, and Everlane herself. Everlane is the only child that Belicon and Kingfisher had together. Again, they keep spending time together, and sexual tension between Kingfisher and Sarah begins to increase. Fisher
Which I will
takes
say was so fucking random, but okay.
it is. And I mean, like, as he taunts her, she also starts kind of getting turned on. And the Fae, you learn, can smell those things. So Everlane comes into the room and she's like, it smells like a brothel in here. And Fisher actually takes the fall for the scent of sex to save Ceres from embarrassment. And at this point, Ceres begins to formulate a plan.
Yep. At this point, Sirius and Fisher are in the forge where she continues to practice the Quicksilver. Lisa's trying to learn how to wield it. They get caught up in a sexual tension, and she ends up straddling him and deepening the kiss. That's kind of the first intimate moment, and then they break it off, and Fisher disappears. Yeah. Renfis is waiting for Sirius to walk her back to her rooms at this point as she slips away, hearing the Quicksilver calling to her. Sirius follows the voice down to the pool of Quicksilver and wakes it up. We find out that she took Kingfisher's token while she was basically, what's that word?
When she was seducing him?
Yes.
Essentially, it was a distraction, which I will say she got very lost in her distraction.
Yeah.
But
I think that was the first idea. And then she was like,
Yeah. I think the intention was to just seduce him. And
Yep.
she kind of went a little further into it.
Yep. So she takes Kingfisher's token because she learns that the Quicksilver is vicious, right? So you have to take a relic or something to be able to pass safely and not lose your mind like Kingfisher is losing his mind.
Yeah.
Because then you do find out that Kingfisher has been through the Quicksilver without a relic at one point, and it's fucking with him. Before entering the Quicksilver, Kingfisher finds her and is furious at her deception. The two of them argue. She tells him that she needs to go back and get her brother. Kingfisher forbids it, and after arguing, they make a deal. Kingfisher says he will go and retrieve her brother. But when he returns, she needs to assist him and do anything she's told.
Yeah. And he's very careful with his wording because he says, I'll try to retrieve your brother.
Yeah.
But when I return, you have to assist me and you have to do anything you're told. And she, a human, is like, sure, whatever,
absolutely. Go get my brother. And then he goes into the Quicksilver. And who does he bring back?
Well, at first he returns with a man, and you don't really have a clear picture of who it is. So Ceres is super excited, and she crawls over to him and sees red hair, and is immediately perturbed. When Sarah sees who Kingfisher brought back, she realizes it's not her brother, but Carrion. She is angered and argues this, but the deal with Kingfisher was that he would try, and so he fulfilled his side of the bargain. He also mentions he can't go back there because there are knights all over the other side waiting for him. He basically had to fight to the death to get out. Kingfisher gives Sarah his first command to stay in a room and make no noise. She finds herself physically incapable of speaking or moving and realizes that the deal that she struck has forced her body to comply with everything that Fisher says.
Which is horrible, right? But I know everybody thinks that. But I think it also kind of leans into Kingfisher is an asshole. Yes. And I think he was meant to be written this way. But again, sorry.
He's an extreme asshole. Yeah. And also, I want to mention that the way that Kingfisher located Carrion was because Ceres gave something, her blood. She gave him her blood to find her blood, which is her brother. So she's completely confused as to but he said, this is your brother. I followed the scent.
I smelled him.
It's him. And she's like, this is not my brother. So he's like, what the fuck?
And then you find out it's because they've been intimate.
Yeah.
So he smelled her on Carrion.
Essentially, yeah.
Right. Kingfisher, Renfis, Sirius, and Carrion all begin to travel out of Belican's kingdom in secret. But it's because they're basically saying like Belicon is not going to be helping the war or anything, and we need to figure out how to make relics of Quicksilver. So like you're coming with us,
Yep.
and we need to do this. Kingfisher then steals Sirius away and brings him back to where his soldiers are. So that's Kalish, I believe.
Yeah. So they, at that point, walk through a shadow gate that Kingfisher created and come out on the other side in Fisher's kingdom. We find out that in the time Fisher was gone and stuck, because he was stuck somewhere, it's not clear at this point where, but they keep alluding to like, oh, he's been through some crazy shit. He's been stuck. Yep. You find out that his army has been waiting at the front lines fighting the enemy for him.
For like 110 years.
Yes. So they've been there for a while. And this is the first time that Kingfisher makes an appearance. So they are now as close to the front lines as they can get at Kingfisher's castle. Carrion wakes up and Sirius informs him where they are. Fisher shows an obvious dislike for Carrion, even more than I think he showed Sirius. And he asks Sirius to forge relics for him, which is a change in how he normally speaks to her. It gives her the idea that she has an option, and she kind of questions him on this. He tells her that Renfis is upset with him because of the deal that they struck, so he's giving her a little more autonomy. So although she hesitates, he has given her autonomy once more, and she is inclined to help him to get what she wants ultimately in the end, which is to go home.
Yep. And while Sirius is settling on her task, right, Renfis makes an attempt to have her and Kingfisher eat dinner together because he's basically like, look, Kingfisher's an asshole.
Random.
So fucking random. I'm like, why
do you care?
Why do they want to, like, they don't have to be friends.
Yeah.
But his whole idea is like, look, if you're doing this favor for Kingfisher and you're staying here, like, he might as well, like, make an effort to be nice to you. And I'm like,
I think Renfis is like a decent guy, I think, also. So I think it also bothers him to see how, like, Kingfisher is cruel to her.
Yeah. Yep. He's an asshole.
Yeah.
So he's like, I want Kingfisher to see you as a person, not like an object that you're just doing things for him. Sirius agrees. And this is when we meet one of the side characters, Archer, who Fisher shows a lot of kindness to. Kind of like, he's like a servant kind of thing, but like he's very nice.
He's like a little Cole walking around.
I know. I found it so cute. While having dinner, these creatures burst through the window, and they resemble white, lanky, large, bald fae with elongated teeth and claws.
Petrifying.
But vampires.
Yeah.
So when I first read this book, I'm like, ooh.
I did not pick up they were vampires till much later.
I'm very into vampires.
Yeah.
Sirius is able to hold her own against one, but ultimately she gets hurt because she's human.
Yeah.
And while healing, Fisher inspects her to see if she's been infected by them. We come to learn that these creatures, that's when we realize, like, they're kind of vampires.
So Fisher places Fisher places Sirius in his room to heal.
I love the way you really wrote Sarah. You're like, fuck that.
Sirius
name.
is too complicated for me to write. So Fisher places Sirius in his room, in his bed, and tells her to heal. He tells her that she's not allowed to get out of bed until she's fully healed, unless it's to use the restroom, and from there to return back to the bed. So against her will, she is confined to the bed.
Yeah.
Carrion comes and keeps her company while they bicker, because that's all they do.
Yep.
In the bickering, he does mention that these sprites, he's clean now, which he wasn't before. And he mentions that these sprites helped him bathe, and they profusely cleaned his private parts.
Yep.
And he was like, I don't know, but I was into it. And she's kind of like, wait, did you kind of like have sex with these things? And he's like, I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Fisher returns, and Sirius continues to try and work with the Quicksilver to no avail. She continues to struggle, and the decision is made that they are all going to go to the war camp again, but this time Sirius is coming with them.
Exactly. And he's been back and forth trying to figure out, like, how to,
Yeah, he had left to go to the war camp.
Yep.
And he came back, and basically now he's decided to take her with him.
Exactly. When they get back to the war camp that is in Amontrese,
I was looking at that and I was like, that's a word.
Yeah. It means Hell's Teeth. We might be able to like put the map.
If you want to add the map, we can add the map right here. Right
Yeah.
here. You guys can look at it. I'll add it.
Yeah. So they make it back to the war camp, and she sees like thousands of tons. She describes the land on the side of the river as like blackened and charred, like a wasteland. No snow covers the other ground. So she's in one side of the river. She sees across the river this way.
Yeah.
So like destroyed land. And that's their enemy's like stronghold.
I thought this was a really good description of the landscape too.
Thank you. You mean like the author or like
No, in general.
the way I wrote it?
No, like the way you wrote it is how it's in the book.
Yes.
But also in the book,
Yeah,
I think it's
agreed.
it very clearly painted the picture for
Yeah.
me.
I was like, that's a compliment. Wait, it was it? I'm just
It
kidding.
was, yeah. You translated it well.
The walls of the structure are made of obsidian, so slick as glass, built from the bones of demons. The peaks and the spires are as sharp as razor's edge, right? So that's how they describe, like, it literally looks like a black castle, basically. We meet a creature called Holgoth, which is sort of an assistant that tells Kingfisher to present himself to his warriors due to being gone so long. So he like comes in and he's like, "Oh, master, like, come, we've been waiting for you." Yeah. And Kingfisher's like, "No, Ren will go." And Ren was just like, "The fuck, dude? Just like come here. You're like our leader. We've been waiting for you for 110 years." And he's like, "Nope." At this point, also, there is a training session that Renfist brings Sirius and Carrion to. And then after, Kingfisher takes Sirius to his tent for a meal where he gives her background towards the history of humans in Ivelis, which is where they're at. They were never slaves, but after a blood curse thousands of years ago, they would eat the humans. The sharp canines that the Fae still possess are the remnants of that curse, but shortly after they have this conversation, they become like intimate. And Kingfisher does end it abruptly, right? And he like kind of leaves. Later on, within the same kind of moment, there's an altercation between Kingfisher and Danya. Danya is one of his like top warriors, but she's like insoportable.
Literally.
Vaya, where she demands that he tell them where he has been. She's basically coming in here like, "Hey, where are you? Where have you been?" Like nagging. Like she's just a nagging person. Danya moves to actually hurt Kingfisher. Steri steps in and accidentally uses her alchemist powers to knock her down and split her sword in countless shards that gets thrown into stone. And everybody's like, right? And she's like, like, what just happened? We do find out that that sword is what's called a god sword. Yeah. And basically, thousands and thousands of years ago, some of these swords would have magic for the person that would wield them. So basically, she just destroyed like a one in a lifetime sword.
Yeah. Like a legendary sword.
Yep.
So after that, the vampire army is trying to cross the Fae, like the Fae River. There's basically a river is what breaks the
two armies.
Yeah, the vampires versus Kingfishers. Yep. And as soon as she shatters that sword, like all hell breaks loose. The dead on the other side are trying to cross the ice, so they need to go break the ice, which this is something that habitually happens. You find out that like they're
for
like
hundreds of years they're just breaking ice.
This just keeps happening.
Like they have found no other solution but to break the ice and let the vampires drown.
Yeah,
like that's what, and they don't even die; they just regenerate and come back up. I just found that very inefficient for 100 years.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, but that's what starts happening. So they all crowd around the lake. Cutting that out. Okay. So they all crowd around the lake and start trying to break the ice. And then suddenly, Malcolm, the king of the vampires, asks for Kingfisher. And when he does not respond, he taunts him by saying he knows it's only been a few weeks since they last spoke, but he missed him. So that tells you already where he's been this whole time.
Yeah, but the plot thickens because no one's seen Kingfisher for basically 100 years. And he's been talking to the enemy.
Yeah. So he also announces it in front of everyone.
Yep. on purpose. After this altercation, Kingfisher finds Sirius in a tent with Ren and Carrion and uses his powers to create a vortex back to his room in Kalish, right? And he's like, goes back with Ceres. And what's the first thing he says? Don't share food with Carrion anymore. And I'm like, what? Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
And if I do?
Yeah. I was like, and then like in the previous chapter, she was like, as the warriors were like fighting with each other, they were like sharing a piece of cake, you know, like just like watching the battle of chaos. She's confused by this, but he won't continue explaining. Instead, they begin discussing the battle at the riverbank. We get some insight into why Malcolm is the king of the vampires. He looks normal. He looks like, I don't know. Have you seen Vampire Diaries?
Yeah.
Okay, so like he looks like a normal vampire.
Yeah.
Right? Malcolm looks like a normal vampire that we are aware of. His minions basically look like bloodthirsty, like mindless, like zombies.
Yeah,
That's what I think about. Just absolute zombies. And Malcolm was the very first. He was a high Fae vampire king, and they were cursed thousands of years ago. The Fae turned into something very like Malcolm. When a cure was found, the majority of the Fae turned back and they took the cure. And most of the Yvelin Fae took the cure. So they were horrified by the monsters they'd become and wanted to return to their old lives. But there were those who liked the dark magic that curse afforded them, like Malcolm. So they liked the power and promise of immortality. He also shares that Malcolm is the strongest of them, and he alone is strong enough to fully turn someone and ensure they remain themselves. So, very important. If one of the zombie-like vampires bites you, you're going to come back being
them.
mindless.
Yeah.
But you come back as a fully functional vampire like Malcolm if only Malcolm bites you at this point, right?
Right.
Then Sirius tries to figure out what he was doing during the years that he was missing, and Kingfisher states that he can't tell her. She realizes that he's bound to not say anything. This is where like, it's not even that you don't want to tell me. It's like, you literally
Physically
look like
cannot.
you can't. He's like, leave it alone. She pushes, and then there states that there's something that she can't explain between them. She says that he wants to bite her. That's what he insinuated when they last like hooked up. And he was like, shut up. Which they do have sex during this scene for the first time. And we find that after the scene, Sirius has tattoos.
Which would have
and
devastated
is confused.
me if I was her.
But Kingfisher won't explain, as per usual.
Right, of course, my favorite thing.
Yep.
So once they reunited, Kingfisher tries to take her to a healer. What?
They once like after that moment
sex?
where they leave after.
So after this, Kingfisher takes her to a healer to take a tonic to prevent children. And this is when Kingfisher finds out that she can't have children because they cleansed her at 14.
Back at Silverian.
Right, which means that they sterilized her because Madra did not want the poor to procreate. So 7 out of 10 female babies have to be sterilized later in life. While Ceres goes back to work on the rings at the forge, Carrion joins her and shares that he knew about the Fae because his grandmother taught him about it. And he mentions like, hey, you don't remember my grandma used to talk about this kind of stuff? Yeah. Which Ceres does remember, but she's like, yeah, but that's like such a vague memory. Like, what?
Right.
You have such
like, why is that?
specific knowledge. And later into the chapter, we see a power struggle with Kingfisher telling Carrion that he should call Ceres Majesty, which she was confused about.
Which I want to interject here just for a second, like I have to, because how fucking obvious could this book be at this point?
Yeah.
They're mates.
Yeah. Well, it just pissed me off because I was like, oh, I thought that I was a stupid piece of shit human. So now I'm Majesty. I would have had so many issues with him.
I think the way that he was written gave me whiplash, and I don't think that I don't see the buildup.
No,
So,
I completely agree.
Continue.
So Kingfisher and Ren call in Ceres to see if she has any idea on how to remove the shards of the sword stuck into the stone, because this is a very powerful sword, and also Danya is throwing a fucking bitch fit.
Yeah.
Ren lets them know that it's a special sword like Nimerel.
Which is Kingfisher's sword.
Yeah, which is imbued with old potent magic, a god sword forged by the ancient alchemist masters, and shows rank in the Lupo Pro. Are you kidding me?
I don't even understand.
Lupo Proelia.
Lupo Proelia. Qué bueno que lo dijiste así because that's how I read it.
In the Lupo Proelia, which is the Kingfisher's wool, was essentially like his elite.
Yeah,
There's
there's
eight of them. So Ceres finds out that the sword had quicksilver in it, which means that when Madra, the queen of Zilverin, was taking it, all she was really trying to keep.
That when Madra took away all the silver, she was just trying to keep the
Gotcha.
quicksilver. Like when she was taking all the metal, she was just making sure that people didn't have access to quicksilver so that they're able to like they're alchemists.
Yeah. So Ceres finds out that the sword had quicksilver in it, which kind of like leads her to understand that when Madra took all the silver away from everybody in Zilverin, it was because she was trying to make sure that nobody had any quicksilver. Kingfisher then says that their historical records show that most alchemists could only command objects if the item in question was at least 5% quicksilver from its solid to its liquid state so that it could be forged. They have no records of alchemists being able to do what Ceres, which according to them makes her the most powerful alchemist to ever exist, of course. And yes, that did annoy me.
I literally wrote when I was doing this online, I'm like, parentheses, of course, Carla. I don't know how this didn't annoy you.
Yeah.
Because Carla does have a really hard time with female main characters that like have no balance to them. Like they're the most like Violet, unfortunately.
Well,
like,
I didn't like Ceres.
You didn't hate her as much as Violet.
No, I won't hate anyone as much as Violet. She's
Fair.
insoportable, and you can't argue that Ceres is worse. Should we really go into that?
No.
Right now? Okay. So they all get into an argument. Danya is annoying, of course, but then Ren shares that they have less than a year to save the kingdom, or Malcolm will take over. We then find out that Lawrence was made his brother by blood because Kingfisher gave him a part of his soul, which is done by like this ancient rite. And we find out at the time that they were strangers, but Kingfisher did it anyway. Lorth dies. If Lorth dies, the piece of his soul that Kingfisher gave returns to him. But if Kingfisher dies first, his soul is condemned to wait for Lorth to die before he moves on, which is fucked.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. She finds out all this like side lore. And then randomly Kingfisher arrives again, and she's with Carrion at this time, and he turns to Ren and he's like, "You got the annoying one?" And he's like, "Mm-hmm." And she's like, "Oh, I'm taking Sarah somewhere." And he takes her to a small village that is hosting a festival. It's called Ballard, and they're celebrating the longest night of the year. We meet Wendy, who sniffs Ceres. Wendy is like a creature that like he knew back in the day. And he sniffs Ceres and says, "Oh, so she's more than a companion to you, Kingfisher." So originally at this point, you're like, "Oh, they probably smelled that they've had like intimate relations."
Which
they go to dinner.
I would hate.
I literally hate that. I hate that.
For everybody to just know my business.
Yeah. They go have dinner. They're kind of celebrating this festival. At dinner, she has an episode where she starts hearing the Quicksilver again. And throughout the entire book, they keep repeating the same mantra, Amaranth Tor, or something like that, or more. Kingfisher notices that she's hearing things, confronts her, but she does not know why. Just the Quicksilver pushes it into her head. Like she doesn't understand why that saying keeps going and going. At which point they're like, "Oh, we're probably going to go home, or what are we going to do?" Turns out that he has a house in that small village, and that's where they stay, 2 bedrooms. And at one point, like he starts screaming in the middle of the night. She runs over to his room, and he has like kind of like
a Rysand nightmare.
Yeah. But he's paralyzed, like he can't move, so it's a little different, I guess. Very creative there. And they bond because she stays with him and she's sharing through this. She's talking about like her life and like how she lost her mother and like it was very violent. And he also says like, "Oh, my mom was killed too." Whatever. They stay together. They sleep through the night. They wake up and they have sex. And he bites her. And later when they were having a meal, she noticed more tattoos. And she's like, what is this? He still doesn't want to talk about it. But we find out that during the sex scene, they were communicating mind to mind. So they're able to talk to each other through minds, but they can't read each other's mind. They can just like talk to each other's mind. Okay. They go back to the camp. Ceres goes back to the stone with all the sword shards, and the Quicksilver in them starts talking to her. And she's trying to convince them to leave the stone, but the Quicksilver asks for a favor. They're like, okay, you want me to do this, or you do this for me?
Yeah.
And they request a song that's only for them. And Ceres asks them to bestow the blade that she makes with magic. But the Quicksilver is like, that cannot be given because it is not deserved. So then the Quicksilver is like, when you make us into a mighty blade, we will decide the person that bleeds on us if they are worthy of getting more magic, right? Like the ancient magic.
Yeah.
The Quicksilver says that once the song is given to them, that they're going to try to see if whoever bleeds on the sword, if they are worthy of the Quicksilver giving them gifts.
Yeah.
She makes this mighty blade, and then Lord accidentally cuts himself. Like he's like, the blade is done, and he's like, oh, let me see it. And he's like looking at it and admiring it, and he like cuts himself a little, but then no one thinks anything of it. And Sarah's is like, okay, now you have to sing to it. And he sings to it like a special song. And when he delivers the song, the Quicksilver picks Lorith as his wielder. This sword is supposed to be Danya's, the nagging bitch. Okay. He suddenly then couldn't remember the song anymore.
Yeah. No one except for
Ceres, right? So then we learn the Quicksilver literally erased their minds, which is crazy.
After that, she goes to bed with Kingfisher and wakes up to the sound of the Quicksilver inside of him. And she tries to strike a deal. So she learned that the way you wield Quicksilver is by talking to it and essentially striking deals. So she tries to strike a deal for it to leave his body, but the Quicksilver declines because it has become him. It tells Ceres that he was a boy when he entered the pool, and because he was so strong, he survived, and they kept him alive to fulfill his purpose. They get interrupted by a horde of vampires again, and Kingfisher gives her his father's sword, Solas, which was one of the ones that Ceres brought back to, which is the sword that Ceres brought back to the world from, the stone that was stuck in Madra's kingdom. The vampires make it to the shore and they start fighting with them, and she learns that she has to cut a vampire's head off for them to stop. So they're able to defeat the vampires, and suddenly they heard someone screaming Kingfisher, and they find Everlane, his sister, on the other side, flanked by at least 100 vampires.
Kingfisher immediately tries to reason tries to get to her, and she tells him to stay put because she can't run away because she was bound by a gold band attached to a new vampire. So now we have a new character that's called Taladius, Talaius, quién sabe, who is trying to convince Kingfisher to cross over and talk to Malcolm. We find out that he is Malcolm's son. We find out that Everlane has been bitten, so now she is his. He tells Kingfisher that Malcolm wants to speak to him at the last place they brokered a deal. And she's been bitten 12 hours ago, so threatens with making Everlane a prostitute unless Kingfisher gives Malcolm what he wants. We find out that Malcolm not only wants Kingfisher, he wants Ceres.
Yeah. So we find out through Ren that once the victim has become bound to the vampire who bit them, they become mindlessly devoted to their needs. So once the vampire gets bored, they kill them, and the victim comes back mindless like the rest of the vampire hordes. They come back to Kalish to try and research a way to save Everlane, and Ceres comes in contact with Delena, who shares that tattoos are a tradition between married couples, but Ceres is confused because for her they just showed up out of the blue.
And Delena was a healer that would help Kingfisher try to dampen the Quicksilver effects.
Yeah. So Delena says that a long time ago, when true mating bonds existed, unions between true mates were blessed with marks from the fates. But when the gods left Ibelia, that waned over time and died years ago. Telena then educates Ceres that writing on the wrists are a sign of good binding, which is a blessing from the gods themselves. And the most important couples in Ivelian history had them, but their stories always suffered terribly. One of them always died.
Yep. Ceres goes, oh, well, thank you
Thanks
for that
the info.
information. I gotta go. And she goes straight to find Kingfisher. And she's like, hey, so I found out what these tattoos mean. You want to talk about it? And he's like, oh no, who told you? Stupid. And he gives in, basically says that she is his mate and that she is his vulnerability. We find out that the nickname that he's had for her, the nickname that he's had for her, Oshalith, whatever.
Yeah.
Which at first when he starts calling her that, he
Calls her
basically
little
tells
Osha,
her, yeah,
and he tells her they're these little
it's
butterflies
weak butterflies that die immediately.
And that's what you are. You're
And
a
then-
weak little human.
But then he deepens it and says in Old Fae it means
Yeah, I don't give a
sacred.
shit.
Yeah, I know, agreed. I did want to put this in. This is more like a theory for later, but in this same moment, he says all names hold power in this place.
Yeah.
Every name means something. We have true names that we don't share with anyone, not our friends, not our families. Our mothers are often the ones that the only people who actually know it. And even a mother might use her child's name for power. So I just want to interject that because I still don't really know what that
Yeah.
means.
So Kingfisher's name might not be Kingfisher at all.
Exactly. Kingfisher knew that Ceres was coming to him because his mother was an oracle, and she said she would come to help him. His mother drew her almost perfectly, except for the fact that in her drawings, Ceres had fate ears, right? So it wasn't 100% right. And this made him more afraid because she's more vulnerable and more weak. Ceres goes on a mission to try to figure out how to save him since he's slowly going insane because they're like, this is my mate, you're giving up. Like, he's basically trying to refuse the mating bonds because he's like, I'm going crazy. Like, I don't want to like tie you with me and we're both going to die anyways.
Yeah.
They realize they need to go find a powerful witch to do blood magic, to then break the enthrallment for Everlane. So like they have like two side quests.
Side quests, yeah.
That way Telena can then hopefully draw out Malcolm's venom from Everlane, and then they decide to go somewhere called Fulton's Gap to find these witches.
Yeah. So Kingfisher and Ceres are intimate again, and they seal the mating bond. When Ceres wakes up, she sees a spiraling shadow gate, and he leaves her a note. Kingfisher leaves her a note that says it will take her back to Kalish, and he's gonna go to rescue Everlane and not let her go through the gate, and that he's gonna sacrifice himself.
Yep.
So they make it through the gate to go help Kingfisher. Carrie and Lorth and Ceres fall into a labyrinth where Madra is with Heron, who's supposed to be dead, and they escort them to the next
place.
Yeah.
This is important to mention that at first everybody was like, how the hell are we going to help Kingfisher? Because in his note, he said, like, just stay on this side, and when Everlane comes in, don't let her come back.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's a few seconds before the portal closes.
Yeah. And Karen was like, well, can't we use the portal to go to him? And everybody's like, you're a genius.
Yeah. So they launch themselves there.
Yep.
And also, when they do show up there and they do get caught in the labyrinth, it is like a major, like, what the fuck? Because it's Madra, Malcolm, and Belicon.
So you find out that they're siblings. This was the biggest twist. I was like, what the fuck? So just like, right?
Not real siblings, though.
No, but like they
Yes.
consider themselves. So Belicon is the ruler of Evelian. Madra is the ruler of Silverian. And Malcolm is the ruler of the vampires. So you find out that they're actually all working together.
Yeah. They had an issue at a certain point because
Madra awakened the Quicksilver.
Madra, like,
and they were angry.
Closed it, and they were like,
Yeah.
get the fuck up. She was like, fuck these people. And then this is what I don't understand. All this time she's been afraid, and now suddenly you're back to being best friends with them. Haven't you been like extremely paranoid all this time?
Yes, but what I got from that was that because it was opened not like according to her, she was like, I need to like shape up and like
But
tell
how
them.
did you get through? Because
I
the
don't
only
know.
person that can speak to the Quicksilver supposedly is Ceres, right? So does Madra have the ability to speak to Quicksilver?
I thought she was a vampire, so maybe she wasn't affected by the Quicksilver.
Well, they've said very explicitly, she is a human because she was, Saris was talking to them in the beginning of the book, and she's like, Madra, like she's something, and they were like, no, she's a human.
Yeah, but in Silveria, no one knows about vampires or anything like that. So it still could be a cover-up.
No, but I'm saying, like Everlane and Kingfisher and Renfist, they're the ones who are like, she is a human.
True. Yep. Okay.
But yeah,
You find out that Malcolm and Belicon were never at war. So, like, at this point, Lawrence is like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys are working together. You're killing so many people. And Belicon was like, this has always been.
sorry.
And Belicon is like, this has always been like, I've just been feeding my brother's army.
Yeah.
Basically.
Disgusting.
Yeah. We then find out that through them baiting Kingfisher, because he's basically like just kneeling and like tortured, and he's trying not to give them any satisfaction. They begin baiting him to tell them what he did, and he looks around, and they're in the amphitheater, labyrinth, whatever. There's a bunch of charred, burnt bodies. Malcolm releases Kingfisher of the oath that didn't previously allow him to say anything that he had to deal with Malcolm.
Yeah.
During the war, Kingfisher finds out that Belicon and Malcolm were not adversaries. So this is the thousands years ago, right? War. Mm-hmm. They were allies and been working together since before the Blood Curse. He did not know that Madra was in league with them until that day, like until present day. He wanted to bargain for a few citizens in a town of Gilner 3 who were still alive, and Belicon proposed a deal. He found a coin, one used only in that city. He said if the coin hit the ground and landed leaf side up, Malcolm would call off his horde and leave the city without hurting another living thing. But if the coin hit the ground and landed fish side up, those that were still alive they would kill them and meet him. If he landed fish side up, he would leave them alive and meet him on a battlefield at a later date. Mm-hmm. Malcolm shares that Kingfisher was not allowed to touch or influence the way the coin fell. While the coin toss was being decided, he wasn't allowed to harm Malcolm or Belicon. Not a hair on either of their pretty heads. And until the outcome of the coin toss had been decided, he wasn't allowed to speak of the deal or the fact that Malcolm and Belicon were brothers. Mm-hmm. So basically, silent oath.
But okay, side note, that is a super long deal, and you're a Fae. So shouldn't you know that, like, you're being very detailed?
Yep.
What the fuck are you going to do?
Yep. And he says that, though. And then he's like, he agreed because he was so desperate to save the peasants, right? And when the coin was tossed, Malcolm caught it, so it never touched the ground. When I read that, I was like, mm-hmm. What a cruel motherfucker.
So Malcolm's people had bitten and killed everyone, so Kingfisher barricaded them all and burned them, which is the innocents that people accused him of killing. Yep. Malcolm then created a labyrinth where he hid Belicon's coin and then created a coliseum around it and filled it with burning bodies. To end their suffering, he just had to find the coin and let it fall on the ground. He spent 102 years looking for the center and then 8 years looking for the coin. Malcolm calls Kingfisher my love, and Kingfisher tells Saris not to react. Then, suddenly, the Quicksilver under the labyrinth awoke and he dived in.
Yep. Somehow, within this, he's been kind of chill, right? Like, kind of not wanting to make any waves. And then he uses their distraction to stab Belicon and tells everybody, run to the labyrinth. So he stabs Belicon, and Carrion, Lorith, Saris, and him start running towards the labyrinth, which is riddled with disgusting creatures that are meant to kill him, right? In the labyrinth, the whole idea is that they're trying to get to the Quicksilver because Saris is able to pick up on it. So they're kind of just following Saris around. In that distraction kind of thing, they get intercepted, and Carrion basically starts baiting Malcolm to bite him. And in the book, right, like, Saris is like, what is wrong with this guy?
Yeah, he's like, are you out of your mind?
Like, shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. And Carrion continues, like, oh, you're stupid. Yeah, bite me, leech, whatever. And then when Malcolm finally bites him, he immediately notices something is off about his blood. Turns out Carrion is not Carrion Swift. It's Carrion Dinathus. ¿Quién sabe? But it's the firstborn son to the king and queen that they've talked about thousands of years ago, right? So his blood is extremely potent. In this distraction, Ceres runs away to find the coin and strikes a deal with the Quicksilver. So she's like running, trying to listen to the Quicksilver, and they're like, "We just want like a little favor later on."
Always a
And
little
she's
favor.
like, "Yeah, sure."
Whatever. Just let me find it.
Like, how come they never think about things? But whatever,
I
desperate.
mean, in this specific situation, I can see her desperation because, like, they're about to die.
Yeah. So Malcolm is not dead after that whole thing. But he gets to where Ceres is and they're just kind of like talking and he seems like jealous
Yeah,
of
he's
Ceres.
like taunting her. He's
Yeah,
like looking at her like, you're not all that.
You're not all that. Like Kingfisher wouldn't let me try him or like just weird shit.
Yeah. He insinuates that there was like, he felt
Interest
something
on his end. Yeah. They struggle. He's basically like almost draining her or like killing her. And she finally drops the coin and the labyrinth releases Kingfisher. And then with the last bit of strength she has left, she cuts off Malcolm's head. Which is great.
Yeah. And so after this, Ceres is fucked up. She has taken a lot of hits. And Taladeus randomly comes in and
and we're like,
offers to save her, which, what?
Yeah, like the scene opens up with him and Kingfisher and he's like talking to Kingfisher like, you need to decide whether I save her. And we're reading this book like, what?
Aren't you an asshole? Like, what are we doing?
Aren't you like in opposite teams? Yeah.
But he does ask Kingfisher, like, what should I do? What should I do? And Kingfisher's like trying to get an answer out of her. Essentially, she does consent. And so he turns her into a vampire like Malcolm.
Right. Because we find out that Taladius is as almost strong as Malcolm. So if he does bite Ceres, that she's not going to end up like a mindless zombie.
And then at this point, she's fading into the transition when the Quicksilver asks her for an audience and she wakes up in the land of gods.
That was the favorite that they wanted.
Yeah. Which
so the Quicksilver is a god portal then.
I'm not completely sure if the Quicksilver is like the gods talking to her or if it's, I don't know.
Oh my God. I'm excited for our theories episode. Okay.
So Corcoran and Stumble, what is that?
The land of the gods is called Corcoran.
Okay. So she wakes up in the land of the gods and she stumbles into a conversation with the twin gods Baal and Mithrin. They lead her to their father, the god of chaos, which is Zareth. And in the beginning of the book, she sees all the statues and he's the one that's like, everybody like doesn't look
Don't
at
even
him.
look at him.
Yeah.
Don't ask him for shit.
It's they praise all of them and then they skip right past him. So it's very humbling to be in front of him. He says, I've spent a long time watching the threads of the universe, waiting for one such as you, an alchemist, to reset the balance and clear the way for what is to come. He states that roots that are seen on Earth
that go into the Quicksilver.
That go into the Quicksilver are the anchors of fate, and that the stems and leaves are tended to by the gods, but one is blackened. He has destroyed those that rot, and he has been searching for hundreds of years of alchemists, but he keeps seeing specifically Ceres and Kingfisher. And when he saw how strong the bond is between them, he wanted to keep away their fates. So he separated her from him by worlds. Instead of letting her be born Fae, he had her be born human, which explains why Kingfisher's mother drew her as a Fae, because that's what her original fate was supposed to be. But no matter what he did, they would always collide. Then he says he's trying to keep them apart because they might bring the end of the universe. Their mating bond and spark, because it's a flame in the dark.
Yeah, we're not totally sure what this means, but the way that he's showing her, it almost looks like, think of like a globe, but it's like a tree. And each branch has like a different realm. Yeah. So the gods are here kind of playing with the realms. Like they're like their little the Sims.
Yeah, essentially.
They're like their little Sims.
Essentially.
And when a world rots, they're like, bye-bye with this. And they like destroy hundreds of thousands of people. But they're worried because the other gods are like, I just want to kill this Kingfisher guy, because if this bond is so strong that they might ruin the rest of the tree, we might not, you know. But the god of chaos, as chaotic as possible, wants to see how this rides out. He seems desperate for her to bend to his will, but she wants to save Kingfisher. And this is interesting because this part of the book, she's like, he seems really desperate to convince me that this is the right choice. But what he's basically dangling the carrot of, like, if you want to save Kingfisher, like you're me and you love him, like just do this one thing. Like just like do this for me. And she's desperate. That's the whole vibe of this book. Everybody's just desperate, making terrible deals.
Yep.
So he seems desperate, and she wants to save Kingfisher. So she agrees that according to him, she needs to become something that the universe does not recognize, to try to trick fate, right? So you don't really know what that means yet. But she wakes up, and turns out that she's like this super rare thing that has never happened before. Of course. And she is half vampire, half fae.
So it's like a unknown world really now for her, because she doesn't know where she stands. Nobody knows really like what her fate is going to be as a half vampire, half fae. Carrion comes by to visit her, and he says that he's always known.
Well, he was.
Yeah, but he was just not ever able to share. And then they kind of talk about his grandmother and how like his grandmother has taught him throughout the years everything, and that's why when they were in this realm, like he knew so much more than she did.
Yeah, he was like so chill.
And he took it. He was so chill, but he would only take seriously things that had to do with like the Fae realm. And so Kingfisher comes in after that and shares that Delena has been able to find a way to dampen the Quicksilver, so there is less chaos, which they used Delena and the Half Witch.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so did nobody in the thousands of years that you've been alive
think about this?
To look for a witch?
I know.
That could maybe dampen that.
I didn't like that. I'm like, oh, so like she comes back and she's like this ultra rare creature. Oh, and Kingfisher's better.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. At this point, I didn't think there was going to be a second book. I thought they were just trying to wrap this up.
No, I thought that there would be, because it kind of leaves off on such a cliffhanger. Like, okay, well, what's going to happen to her? Because they also mention that Ceres sees she's on the other side of the river, and they tell her that's because she killed Malcolm, and now she's the new queen
of the vampires.
And they just leave it at that.
Yep, that's the end of the book. But before they tell her that, right? Before they tell her that she's the queen of the vampires, when they're basically saying like, oh, now she's like this cool different thing, and Kingfisher feels better. Right before that, I was just like, oh, what book? What's gonna happen? They're gonna talk to me about her Fae vampiristic ways? Like, ¿qué más van a decirme? But then when they're like, by the way, you're now the queen of vampires, that was interesting. I was like, wow,
it is interesting because. So Malcolm is dead, but Belicon is still alive. So is Madra.
Sneaks away.
Yeah.
But I love the part where Kingfisher's like, count your days, bitch. Be careful of the dark, because
be wary of the shadows.
Yes,
because I'm coming for you.
Because I'm coming for you. Yeah. I fucking love that part.
And if that bitch wasn't paranoid before, you can bet your ass
she is now.
Yeah.
But Belicon also goes.
Belicon doesn't even give a fuck about his daughter, which is crazy.
No.
Abandons her, lets her get turned into a potential vampire sex slave.
Yep. Belicon gets stabbed. Yeah. But he survives, and
a piece of backstory that we forgot to mention, we find out that Belicon sent Kingfisher's father away.
Yes.
And I believe he goes to, what is it called? Silverin, right. 1,000 years ago. And so he goes there, and it's presumed that he dies there because there's no Fae in Silverin. Yeah. And Silverin is literally surrounded by desert. So it's like, where the fuck really would he be? But you find out that Belicon did that to kind of like widow his wife.
Yep.
And then he forced her to marry him. He said, I'm the king, you have to marry me.
Yep.
And he did that to take the money of the estate because
they had a lot of money.
Is super rich. And that's also why he's treated Kingfisher like such a piece of shit this whole time.
Yep.
So now, like, all of these revelations are out, right? And now we know, like, this whole time you've been working with Malcolm, all of this.
Yep.
There's this huge cliffhanger of, like, well, what the fuck is going to happen? Like, are you going to go back to
Yeah.
Zilverin and face
And tell everybody
Mandra,
that Belicon has...
and that you're a fucking Fae, and that your boyfriend's a Fae, and where's my brother?
Yep.
And I'm also a vampire. Or are you going to go after Belicon? Are you going to raise it? Like, what happens now? And
like, tell everybody that this
now?
war for thousands of years is fake.
And also, if I was her, I'd be like, ew, my, like, citizens are disgusting.
I know. I thought that
just,
too.
Like, these bald, stringy hair
creatures.
Like, I'd be like, ew.
Zombies.
I don't want them.
I know. I was grossed out by that too.
Yeah.
So
that
we
is...
hope that recap was to the point.
Yeah. We tried to be brief and in depth. I think we swayed in different parts. But that is the most important stuff.
Those are the most important details that you might need going into Brimstone.
You should be able to watch this video and not have to reread the book.
Yep. But if you don't think so, please leave us comments.
Yeah. I mean, let us know if we're missing anything that you think is super important.
Yep. So that other people can read your comment.
Yeah.
As we are getting closer to the Brimstone release, we are going to focus on our next episode on the bonus chapters as well as our theories.
Yeah. So essentially, we are doing a couple episodes of just Quicksilver leading up to the release.
Yep.
And it should pretty much give you like a one-stop shop where you can have like a how do you say it? Repaso?
Yeah, like a recap.
A recap of what happened in Quicksilver. What did the bonus chapter say?
Yep.
And then you should be ready
Brimstone
for
ready.
Brimstone. Yeah.
Exactly. So, thank you for watching. Leave us any comments on your thoughts or anything we missed, and catch us up next time.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.